In Palestine, figures show that Israel invested nearly 10% of its GDP in the ongoing military campaign against Gaza, resulting in the deaths of more than 4,000 Palestinian children, while total Palestinian deaths stand at over 10,000. The president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, gave a speech on the upcoming national referendum of the incorporation of the Esequibo region of the sovereignty of Venezuela. And in Haiti, recent gang attacks in the south of the capital forced more than 2,400 citizens to leave their homes. Hello, welcome to teleSUR English. I am Estefania Bravo from the headquarters of Quito in Ecuador. This is from the south. In Palestine, the Gaza Strip authorities reported that 70% of the population has been forcibly displaced from their homes due to the Israeli siege against the Palestinian people. According to recent figures, the population in Gaza is about 2.3 million people, implying that more than 1.6 million Gazans were displaced in the framework of the Israeli attack. The government media office in Gaza denounced that the Tel Aviv's regime attacks have damaged 50% of the homes in all of the Gaza and that 10% were completely destroyed.
What can I tell you? Bodies torn to pieces, dead bodies lying in the streets, total destruction. Everything is destroyed. When we were walking and we passed by the Al-Kabala, the tanks passed by throwing earth and mud. What is happening cannot be described. Thank God.
And the spokesman of the Ministry of Health in Gaza said that the Israeli occupation is deliberately targeting health centers in the Gaza Strip.
The occupation would deliberately target hospitals in the Gaza Strip and attack medical personnel and staff, and called on the United Nations and the Red Cross to protect health facilities and ambulances.
The Gaza Health Ministry spokesman also denied the statements of the Israeli occupation concerning the existence of presumed corridors for the displaced Palestinians in the south of the Gaza Strip.
We deny the Israeli occupation's narrative about the existence of so-called safe corridors for the displaced south of the Gaza Strip. The occupation speaks of safe corridors, but the reality is that they are corridors of death, turned into traps to trap the displaced.
The Interior Ministry spokesman in Gaza, Iyad al-Bassam, assured that some 311,000 displaced Palestinians are distributed among 225 refugee centers.
The number of refugee centers in the Gaza Strip currently stands at 225 refugee centers distributed in all governorates, including 97 refugee centers in the governorates of Gaza and northern Gaza, inhabited by approximately 311,000 displaced people.
The Interior Ministry spokesman warned that around 100,000 citizens are affected by the lack of fuel and flour in the Gaza Strip due to the attacks and the blockades by the Israeli occupation forces.
All the bakeries in Gaza and the northern area stopped working after being attacked by the occupation, and the lack of fuel and flour is a threat to the lives of 900,000 Palestinians. People are forced to drink contaminated water because the occupation has cut off the water.
Thousands of young Syrians are demonstrating in support of Palestine from the Al-Fayah sports complex in Damascus, claiming their disposition to cross the border to fight in the occupied territories. Our correspondent Hisham Monus has more details in the following report.
Thousands of young militants of the Arab Socialist Ba'ath Party raised their national flags of Palestine and Syria at the Al-Fayah sports complex in Damascus in solidarity with their brothers in Gaza. The Syrians, together with the Palestinians living in that country, praised the steadfastness of the Palestinian people in the face of the Israeli war of extermination, expressed their readiness to fight alongside their brothers in the occupied territories against the troops of the Zionist occupation regime, and stressed that the armed struggle is the only valid option for the recovery of the usurped rights.
We are here today alongside our Syrian brothers to express our support for our people in occupied Palestine and to assure them that we will always stand by their side. And we are eager to cross the borders to fight alongside our brothers in the occupied territories.
We condemn the Israeli massacres against the children and our brothers in Gaza, and we ratify from here, from Syria, the beating heart of the Arabs, our attachment to the axis of resistance, and we salute all the free peoples who are members of this axis, from southern Lebanon to Yemen, Iraq and Palestine, who are fighting united in the battle for victory against this criminal Zionist occupier.
The demonstrators affirmed that Gaza is not alone and that Syria, like all the countries of the axis of the resistance, is with the sacred struggle of the Palestinian people. This is a principled stance of the Syrian government and people that they claim they will never change, even though they are suffering the consequences of a terrorist war that has not ended for 12 years and that has been imposed on them to force them to renounce their support for the just Arab causes led by the Palestinian cause. Syria is a country of resistance and has always demonstrated this through its actions. Today we ratify our position in the Arab Socialist Ba'ath Party, which raises the Palestinian cause as a pan-Arab cause, and which is our main cause and our compass and the guide of our struggle until we achieve victory and the total liberation of all the occupied Arab territories.
We praise this great demonstration of the Syrian popular masses in support of Palestine. This sit-in is a clear example of the strong commitment of Syrians to the Palestinian cause and the historical link between Syria and the Palestinian cause. Syria made many sacrifices in defense of this cause and thus was subjected to a universal terrorist war for more than 12 years, but still it remained steadfast in defense of our cause.
This sit-in, as well as the many popular and official activities that take place daily in Damascus and other Syrian cities, show that the people of Syria and Palestine are two brotherly peoples fighting together against a common enemy, which they are sure will be defeated and expelled from their lands, no matter how much Washington and other Western and European states try to save them from this inevitable destiny.
And in the midst of a total siege that Israel maintains over the Gaza Strip, demonstrators put pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu's government to guarantee the return of the people held captive by the Hamas movement. Hundreds of people held a protest in Jerusalem in front of the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, to demand government action to release their relatives. The demonstrators expressed outrage and sadness that the more than 240 captives are still being held, a month after they were taken from southern Israel on October 7th. We're taking our first break now. Join us again after this, but also don't forget to follow us on TikTok for more news. Stay with us. Welcome back. The president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, gave a speech on the upcoming national referendum on the incorporation of the Esequibo region to the sovereignty of Venezuela. Maduro began by alluding to the beginning of the campaign for what would be the 7th consolidated referendum. He called on the people to participate on Sunday, December 3rd in the process, which consists of 5 questions. He also urged citizens to vote with the best spirit, a fair and sincere vote. President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, pointed out that this is not a time for war nor for divisive debate to dissolve public opinion.
It is not a time for a debate to dissolve public opinion. It is not a time for a debate to divide Venezuelans. It is time for a debate to unite the national soul into a whole, to unite in ideas the forces that move us as Venezuelans who love this homeland.
The Venezuelan head of state affirmed that all the conflict over the Esequibo territory seeks to destabilize the country, the Caribbean, and whole Latin America.
The intention now is to trap us into a conflict, a zero-sum conflict, a growing conflict, to destabilize Venezuela, to destabilize the Caribbean. And to talk about destabilizing Venezuela and destabilizing the Caribbean means to destabilize the whole of Latin America.
And in Venezuela, the electoral authorities of the National Electoral Council and members of the Carter Center held a meeting. The meeting is part of the agreements signed between Venezuela, the Venezuelan government, and the unitary platform of the opposition in Barbados with the purpose of holding presidential elections in the second semester of 2024 with the international electoral accompaniment. In Argentina, human rights organizations presented a legislative draft against negotiation, which promotes the increase of penalties for demonstrations that support crimes against humanity. The project condemns the support of speeches that seek to justify crimes committed against civilian populations. In this sense, the proposal aims to politically incapacitate those who vindicate these types of crimes, as well as to promote democratic formation and human rights for those who hold public positions. On Tuesday, the president of Chile, Gabriel Boric, received the project of a new constitution for Chile and called for a plebiscite on December 17th to decide whether to accept or to reject the proposal. After receiving the document, Boric reiterated that the main responsibility of the government is to ensure that the citizens can express themselves with full freedom in the public consultation in December. In Haiti, recent gang attacks in the south of the capital forced more than 2,400 citizens to leave their homes. Displaced people from the community of Mairani joined the more than 200,000 citizens who have had to leave their homes since the middle of last year due to growing violence on the armed gangs that are pushing for the expansion of their territories. We're taking our last break now. Join us again after this, but also don't forget to visit us on our YouTube channel at teleSUR English for more. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Tuesday, Portuguese Prime Minister Antonio Costa announced his resignation after being involved in a wide-ranging corruption investigation. The public prosecutor's office announced in a statement that it was investigating Costa and several members of his cabinet for alleged crimes of prevarication, active and passive corruption, and influence peddling.
I had the opportunity to speak with the President of the Republic twice today. In the terms of the Constitution, it is up for the President to accept my resignation and then decide on the next steps. The last thing I will do is to make a public statement on the decision that the President may take upon, and that is his sole responsibility. No, I will not run for the Prime Minister office again. I want that to be very clear. This is a period in my life that comes to an end. Also, as we know, criminal cases very rarely are speedy, so I would not stand by and wait to make a decision. The most important trial is that of my conscience. And with regard to that, I am calm. I am certain that I have no illicit act weighing on my conscience.
não pesa na consciência nenhum ato ilícito.
Nonprofit groups and activists involved in the rescue of migrants in the Mediterranean on Tuesday in Italy denounced plans by Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni to send thousands of migrants rescued by the Italian ships to the center in Albania. Social activists said it was a deportation and against international law. Albania agreed on Monday to temporarily take in some of the thousands of migrants arriving on Italian shores while their asylum applications are being processed.
Noi siamo enormemente preoccupati.
We are enormously worried because the people who will be rescued by these military ships taken to centers in Albania risk being subjected to a deportation that risks violating international law. Above all, it wounds their humanity because people rescued by ships from one country then are deported to another that is outside of the European Union and put inside these centers risks becoming something that really destroys their and also our humanity.
The families of the victims of the 2018 dam disaster in Kenya have reached out on off-court settlement with the owner of the facility. In an agreement mediated by Kenya's Human Rights Commission, the owner agreed to pay $8,000 for adults and $5,300 for minors lost in the tragedy, the commission said on a statement on Tuesday. In Costa Rica, floods left around 400 houses affected in the town of Huarcu in the province of Cartago. The National Emergency Committee detailed that 2 of the houses were reported with total damage, so the families were relocated. Authorities reported that the communities of Tobosí, Corazón de Jesús, Las Barrancas, and San Isidro were the most affected. Experts detailed that among the causes of the floods are the overflowing of sewers and the flooding of rivers in the sector. And with that, we've come to the end of this news brief. But before saying goodbye, we want to thank our Caribbean audience, especially the audience of Trinidad and Tobago. We are pleased to share our newscast and contribute to providing an alternative news source and the latest world events. You can find these and other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And you can also join us on our social media networks on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Estefania Bravo. Until next time.